Hi everybody. This is going to be a fairly brief explanation about some of the plans we have in the immediate future. These include our goals of setting up the first Pure Salvage Living Village, which is out of the 40 acres over here, we can use about 37 of it to develop this out. And initially we're going to take 3 acres, maybe 4 acres of it to create 3 small villages. Ideally, we want to show that you can have sort of a musician's village. You could have an elderly village where people are more prone to maybe going to bed earlier, not staying up so late. We can have our seminar village, which is effectively going to be occupied by people that are coming in to do seminars, but apprentices, volunteers. The idea being as you build one and participate in building one, it's only appropriate that you be able to stay in one. If we can have them up, that's the goal. Another element of what we're doing is to have a tiny Texas storehouse, commercial area in other words, where people who might do jewelry and might do stuff like that will be in the front area. That's a commercial area, so we're right near the main facility where tiny Texas houses have been built for the last 6 years. The goal is to show that you can have a Pure Salvage outpost, which is what the tiny Texas houses facility is now. And we've moved a lot of inventory in from over here, but there's also a Pure Salvage Living outpost over in Gonzales. Now, that one is actually going to have our first Pure Living Life retreat, where you can actually come in and stay in this larger, older house, actually one of the 1900 circa monsters that we no longer are able to afford because they're obsolete, but it's still standing and we're going to use it and have bunk beds and basically create a nice retreat for people to come to for weekends, week-long stays, possibly longer. And within 2 blocks is the other facility, which you're going to see, the next Pure Salvage Living Outpost, number 2. And that's a 70,000 square foot facility. So we're going to be able to have outdoors with tarps down the sides and covered areas, the ability to do 5 or 6 stages of a tiny Texas house construction so that people can participate on weekends or for short periods, but get in any one of several phases. In other words, the bottom floor structure, the framing, the exterior skins, the wiring, plumbing, and interior skins, the whole concept of the roof, the finish out, the porches, all that can be taught in different stages so the person doesn't have to come in and complete one whole house. They can come in on one seminar and do one part of it, come in another seminar and do another part. The same thing with our salvage expeditions. As we bring stuff back, the idea is to show how it can come directly back in and be turned around directly into housing so it doesn't stay in inventory very long. In order to do that, we're also going to be teaching people how to do the inventory. So warehousing and everything can be taught over at the other facility as well as here. And to do it all, make it all happen, the idea of having this little village around our little facility, the Pure Salvage Living Outposts, as they create houses, rather than have to move them right away, the idea is to be able to park them nearby and create the village that allows people to come in and do this at every outpost. And the more houses you build using the seminars, the more houses you have available to house people who are coming in wanting to learn and then take it back home and start another outpost. And then that outpost in turn builds more houses out of the salvage that they're getting doing the salvage expeditions, where you're doing the mining and bringing it into the common warehouse and doing the building right outside the common warehouse, and then marketing all the extra stuff to create the other revenue to pay for the health center, the education center, and all the things that you can do with this money that can be created out of trash, is what everybody sees it as. Ultimately, you're going to get to see a lot of pictures during this video that will demonstrate to you that literally a landfill of trash can be a tiny town, a community for 40 or 50 people that effectively takes nothing out of the planet to create. These are the things you're going to be seeing. Every house you see built is just an example of what we do in the form of tiny. You can do this as a small house. You can do this as a large house. You can do it to make buildings, health centers, everything you want. Salvage materials are just being used in this way because this is my way, my art, my form of creating something that will alter people's perspectives on the value of trash the importance of it, but also integrating the barter system back into everything, where all the things I'm talking about creating, people will be able to come here and participate in and earn Pure Salvage Living dollars, basically a metric for capturing bartering in a space of time and transferring that value to whatever it is you want to apply it to. It could be flooring, it could be windows and doors, it could be seminars for your grandchildren. The idea being is to start turning this around where you can actually barter nearly everything you need, like we used to do a century ago and back into history. Coin and currency changes as time passes, from beads to rum to sugar. We're just talking about using life's resources. So what you're going to see is pictures of all of life's resources that have been created by our forefathers: the windows, the doors, the sinks, the tubs, the beautiful wood that's all been cut up from trees that we'll never see again because we'll never grow them that old. All this is going to be captured in warehouses around the country as 76 million baby boomers downsize and say, here, my children, my grandchildren, this is my legacy that I hand off to you. It is the wealth of trees and bricks and hardware and all the things that our generation created for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. Please take these houses, take these assets, take these natural resources, and use them to rebuild the country with. I give them to you. Give me back a tiny house to live in until the day I die, that I can leave behind for generations to come. If we can think like that, if we can do that, then we actually have a chance of reforming trash into the treasures that will house our children and feed them and make it possible for a future that right now no one sees because they think it's trash. All right, it's going to be fun. You're going to get to see a lot of stuff. We're going to be putting together incredible packages. Please join us again. Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, do you want to explain more in depth about the village real quick and just get a little bit of footage of that? Because you didn't really go into depth about it. So just, explain all the volunteer possibilities for people that are going to be at the seminar sitting here looking at this and saying, you can get involved in this right now, you can get involved in this right now.
Good. Okay, ready? Yeah. One of the immediate projects we have coming up is the bathhouse. It's about halfway built. The idea is to create a male and female divided areas where you can come in and have your showers and have everything that you need, so we can have people camping out. And we're going to have spaces for RVs, although not necessarily full hookups initially, but we will make it possible to have some of them. The intent is to be able to have people come out, spend the weekend, spend a week camping or enjoying sort of an adventure and being able to work. The villages, as they develop, effectively are 1 acre areas with maybe 10 houses around them, and ideally a common central house, ultimately a big pavilion that we have where people can get together. And as we do each one of these villages, in theory, if I have, say, 37 acres, and I've taken 5 out, that's going to be our facility, which is typical. And we take out, say, 4 or 5 acres just to keep a lot of green space. I'm still sitting on 27 acres. And then we're going to use another 5 acres of that, so it's going to be garden and food production at least, maybe 6 acres. You'll have some animals, chickens, and things like that. So I'm still only up to about 16 acres, 18 acres. And I can fit 10 houses on each acre that I choose to make a village out of, and get a central house and still have 10,000 square foot of garden space on that acre. So what I'm looking at is being able to set up potentially 10 or 12 tiny villages, all kind of more in a way of putting around a central area. Each 4 or 5 have a common pavilion area. Effectively, if you have solar power, any of the services that you effectively are able to create within your own little village, that's all linked into this common pavilion. So your common areas are powered by everybody. If somebody's systems go down, you simply transfer, basically jumper over your power system, your grid, and help out the neighbor. Likewise, if you have assets in your community, it might be quilters, because you're a quilting community, it might be fishermen who tend to go out and catch a lot of fish. They want to be trading over there with the growers, the ones that are really the organic greenheads. It really is a matter of us creating these little villages that effectively can then commune together in a common house and share the abundance of one village with the abundance of another, such that we balance out the highs and the lows. If we have a bunch of 2x4s and windows and a bunch of stuff over here, because we have an abundance of wood, and we want to ship it out through various Pure Salvage Living outlets to other places that don't, they could be shipping us back organic food or any other number of things because we're just trading, we're bartering. Beautiful thing about bartering is that we use a metric that will allow these villages to not only get off grid electrically, they'll allow these villages to get off grid on an income basis. Effectively, if I'm trading you my time that I can't get a job, this has no real value, and I trade that for your veggies, and I'll do some work for you for those veggies, or I trade that for that window that you managed to salvage out of that house. Each of these transactions, because they're barter, like-kind barters, they effectively aren't taxable barters. And I will argue this ultimately to the end, that if I take trash and save the planet from throwing it away and taking out new resources, and I build a house out of that and create a barter system that pays for that without taxing the system, I take nothing out of our government from it. I do not want any donations from our government. I don't want any help. I don't want any programs. I don't want anything from our government. I want this to happen at a grassroots level. And what we're going to show is that it can. We're going to show that, just like I showed with these houses, what I've proved ultimately is that you can do it, not just me. Everybody can do this. Every community can do this. All you have to do is get together and say, hey, we want to let everybody build with salvage lumber. Hey, wow, isn't that a deal? Look at this. This is salvage lumber. And I didn't even need an inspector because maybe gee, why don't we do that? There's not a reason not to use it. And encourage it to be used. And then also it's like, well, I didn't use double pane insulated glass, but nobody yet has had an issue with the fact that I didn't use double pane glass, because ultimately I'm building in the South, and for the moment that's not a regional issue for me. I actually save more money not using double pane glass, both in the energy consumption by virtue of the cost of making the glass. All these things will be proven by this village. So we want to have you, as members of the Pure Salvage Living Movement, have the opportunity to come and stay in my houses for free. There'll be a participation survey, and it's going to be where you actually would pay to participate in this survey. It's a real living survey. Effectively, people have opinions when they stay in these houses. They feel them, they understand the energy, they understand the concept. They can feel the difference when it's not plastic, when it's not vinyl, when it's not all fabricated and shipped in and smelly with all that new house smell. It's not just an appreciation on a physical level, it's an appreciation on almost a spiritual level, in that we owe it to whatever energy it was that brought this into existence.